Hey guys, welcome to The Strong Young Man. Today I'm going to discuss a very complicated aspect of dark psychology called narcissism. Narcissism is essentially excessive self-admiration, often idealised and not accurately reflective of one's own self-image and attributes. Narcissism develops to satisfy our human requirement for love when we separate from our mother. Up until about 2 years old, our mother is always next to us, giving us all the love that we need. Sometime between 2 and 3, as we branch out and discover the world, we become slightly separated from our mothers. Now we can't get the human requirement for love that we once had. Her attention is elsewhere, maybe on another newborn, and so we need to satisfy this requirement through our own self-love. This is known as developing our own self-love, our self-esteem. At this age, we can never supply ourselves with the same love our mother did. It is because of this transition that everyone is somewhat narcissistic, with some being deeper on the spectrum than others. If we are encouraged by our parents to explore the world and indulge ourselves in this self-love, we develop a healthy relationship with ourselves. We can then go on to develop healthy relationships with other children. Deep narcissism is caused by a disruption in this early phase of development. This disruption causes a child to be unable to develop a positive relationship with themselves early on. If a child does not develop this positive relationship with themselves before age 5, they'll be sent out into the real world without the skill of self-love. They will be unable to connect with people on a meaningful level because they'll be stuck in the developmental phase of a 2-year-old. Rather than the child transitioning into loving themselves under the guidance of their mother, they will constantly seek love and validation from others. This sets the template for them for the rest of their lives. The deepest narcissists are completely dependent on others to feel alive and worthy. Toxic narcissism or narcissistic personality disorder causes a person to develop an excessive need for admiration. They engage in behaviours and activities that facilitate this requirement. If the need is fulfilled, a toxic narcissist will develop an exaggerated understanding of their abilities and a grandiose sense of self-importance, leading to further complications that eventually result in a catastrophe. Narcissism is becoming increasingly common in the 21st century for several reasons. Reason number 1, bad parenting. Bad parenting is where narcissism begins in a child's life. The role of a parent is to encourage their child to explore the world and develop sufficient confidence to become their own person. Bad parenting today is taking many forms, but here are the forms that contribute to a child developing deep narcissism. 1. Parents are providing insufficient encouragement or reinforcement. One of the reasons that this occurs is because parents are too preoccupied with other activities. Parents are distracted by work and other digital distractions such as TV and social media, which withhold the attention that is required to foster the growth of children. Parents are increasingly spending more time on social media, maybe satisfying their own narcissistic desires for approval, and so the cycle continues. 2. Parents are too overprotective. Parents and society at large is becoming too soft and unwilling to allow their children to explore the real world for fear of getting hurt. This is a terrible way to treat a child. It's authoritarian and it will mean the child will forever remain a child. The devouring mother or father seeking to keep their child a child for life is an evil human being. 3. Children are not disciplined properly anymore. Society is discrediting how important discipline is for a child's development. Some governments are going so far as to label discipline child abuse. What fucking nonsense. Another reason that children are ill-disciplined is because fathers, the disciplinarians, are being kicked out of the family home. Children raised by single mothers are ill-disciplined, and the stats back this up. Understand that discipline is not punishment. They're not the same thing. The word discipline actually comes from the Latin word disciplina, which means to instruct and impart knowledge. This root also made its way into the English language as the word disciple. Children these days are severely ill-disciplined, and the lack of discipline perpetuates the understanding that the child is above the rules. 4. Children have developed a vicious sense of entitlement. The world has become wealthier, and children are growing up with riches and privileges like never before. Most children never have to go without or are never told no. When a child's requests are granted all the time, they become dominant over the parent. This sets a dangerous precedent as the child grows up. The parent should always be in control and should deny requests every so often, even if only for the purpose of establishing authority. Continuously complying with the desires of children breeds entitlement. This entitlement confirms to the child that they are superior and are entitled to anything they ask for without earning it. This will cultivate their narcissistic tendencies if the child does not have the psychological fortitude to rein it in. Parents should root these behaviours out of their children early on if they see it. Parents need to let their children know that they aren't more special than any other child, except to their own parents. This ensures their children have a realistic opinion of themselves, the antidote to delusions of grandiosity. Reason number 2, social media. Social media has taken over our lives. People spend less time interacting in social settings because many social settings have been replaced with other, more digital forms in modern times. This has increased tenfold since 2019, with many forms of social interaction limited to online forums to cull the spread of COVID-19. Social media contributes to narcissism because it encourages people to post information about themselves. When other people comment on a narcissist post, their high self-opinion is now confirmed. To constantly confirm a narcissist's high opinion of themselves will cause them to develop an exaggerated understanding of their abilities and a grandiose sense of self-importance. This is what is happening to average women on Instagram, which is one of the reasons that women are so deluded. See episode 27 for why women are becoming increasingly deluded today. Social media also acts as a barrier to fixing narcissistic tendencies within individuals. Understand that you do not develop the same social skills through online interaction. The ability to develop empathy suffers the most. When we have a screen separating two people, we don't perceive these humans as real as we would have with face-to-face communication. We also don't identify social cues such as nonverbal communication, which makes it really hard to connect with people. Social media causes this issue in the moment too, because people are so consumed with technology they are constantly immersed in their smart devices and not immersed in the company of others. People are paying more attention to their phones than the other person, which causes people to miss the observations required to develop empathy on a meaningful level. The result is a highly self-centered online interaction or compromised social interactions deficient in any real genuine empathy. Always using social media to interact with others can cause even the most empathetic to develop more of their narcissistic tendencies. Reason number 3, online dating. Online dating is another technology that enables narcissism on a whole new level. Online dating has given women the opportunity to obtain immediate sexual validation online to fulfill their narcissistic requirement for love. Many women download these dating applications with absolutely no intention of dating. They use it entirely as a tool to obtain attention and validation from members of the opposite sex. This allows them to consistently maintain their high self-opinion. The unlimited stream of possible options allows them to avoid the responsibility of loving themselves, a key prerequisite to forming any meaningful relationship. Despite what my female viewers might think, this is not the case for 95% of men. More often than not, online dating humbles men because they are made aware of their own inadequacies. The majority of men are unable to fulfill their narcissistic desires using online dating because 95% of men are unable to attract a woman that aligns with their high opinion of themselves. This is not because 95% of men are delusional, it's actually because 95% of women are delusional. There is an abundance of data that confirms to me that 100% of women believe they are entitled to the top 5% of men. By deductive reasoning, 95% of women are delusional. Online dating allows women to continue obtaining sexual approval from members of the opposite sex without facing the reality of the situation, which is that they should be obtaining approval from within, rather than obtaining it from the caliber of man that they match with on dating applications. Reason number 4, politics. Political movements that enable and encourage people to become offended by everything are becoming more popular. We live in a feels before real society, where we prioritise a person's feelings over facts. Political correctness exploits this social convention and trains people to feel victimised. If a person can demonstrate that they have been victimised, then they become morally superior in the presence of an oppressor. Reveling in that moral superiority is just another way in which a narcissist can satisfy their requirement for approval from others. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations. The most concerning deep narcissists are those that become successful leaders. It's more frequent than you might imagine because the high self-opinion of a narcissist can be alluring. If they are extroverted and they have success, their high self-opinion is confirmed by real events. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Full of narcissistic self-confidence, they attract attention and followers, which only deepens their narcissism. Their narcissism runs away from them and they begin to imagine their own superiority. They develop a grandiose sense of self-importance, far above their actual importance. It is when there is a massive discrepancy between their self-perceived importance and their actual importance that people suffer from delusions of grandiosity. Beyond a certain point, these people cannot be brought back down to reality. Their narcissism has snowballed momentously. They become aggressive and ignore anyone who tells them anything that contradicts their high opinion of themselves. Anything that anyone says is deemed as unintelligent because the narcissist cannot comprehend that someone might be more intelligent than them. If they get to this point, once the chain reaction is set in place, the narcissism and delusion will feed each other, and there'll be no limit to how delusional they become and to the contamination they impart to their surrounding environment. Eventually, toxic narcissists will bring total and utter destruction upon themselves and everyone in their path. Deep narcissists are very harmful if we're close to them. Their most toxic trait is that they always need to be the centre of attention or have things revolve around them. They will make us feel horrible for not paying them the attention that satisfies their narcissistic requirements. If you consistently fail to meet their requirements, they will achieve their narcissistic requirement for superiority by bringing you down. Everything will be at your expense because a deep narcissist thrives off their importance and will do everything to highlight it. Learn to detect the narcissistic signs in individuals before you get close to them to avoid their destruction. Here are the traits that signal that you are dealing with a deep narcissist. 1. A deep narcissist lacks the ability to empathise. 2. A deep narcissist must always be right and can't humble themselves to take on new information. 3. A deep narcissist is unable to take constructive criticism or a joke at their expense. All of these experiences damage their ego. 4. A deep narcissist monopolises conversations by cutting people off. They always need to be the centre of attention and always try to get the conversation back on their terms. 5. A deep narcissist becomes extremely jealous or envious of the successes of others and always has to outdo or play down the successes of other people. 6. A deep narcissist has an excessive need for admiration. 7. A deep narcissist has a vicious sense of entitlement. 8. A deep narcissist always claims they are the victim and can never do any wrong. 9. A deep narcissist will virtue signal to demonstrate their moral superiority. 10. A deep narcissist will demonstrate dichotomous thinking patterns, also known as splitting or black and white thinking. Everything is 100% right or 100% wrong, pure good or pure evil, with nothing in between. Narcissists will always identify with the positive aspect of the dichotomy, and more often than not, they will one-up you by putting you in the negative aspect of the dichotomy. 11. A narcissistic parent or boss will often set up a narcissistic group dynamic where they produce a system that creates a golden child or a scapegoat or both. The golden child can do no wrong and is worshipped unconditionally, whereas the scapegoat can do no right and serves as an entity for all group members to project their failures and unconscious traumas onto. This is absolutely disgusting behaviour when you really think about it. And 12. A deep narcissist will always deny their own narcissistic tendencies. Remember that deep narcissists think too highly of themselves to consider that they have a character flaw. As I mentioned a moment ago, every human has narcissistic inclinations because their 2-year-old self can never love themselves in the same way their mother could. Narcissists can draw us in with their allure and self-confidence, and disengaging from them once enmeshed can be nigh impossible. If you are involved with a narcissist, intimately or platonically, you need to terminate this toxic relationship following the strategies outlined in episode 71. Next, you must not feel ashamed of your own narcissistic tendencies. Everyone is narcissistic to some degree, with some being deeper on the spectrum than others. If you don't think you are narcissistic, at least to a minor degree, then think again. I'm sure that no sound is more important to you than your own name called by another. When you see a group photo, the first person you look for is yourself to see how you look. Humans have evolved to prioritise our own self at the expense of others. If you see yourself as a deep narcissist, you must confront the difficult aspects of your own psychology. There may be several unconscious repressions lurking within your subconscious. You may need therapy from a trained clinician to help you shine some light on these dark characteristics. Identify and accept your narcissism and the stigma attached to it to avoid it becoming toxic. A person can use their narcissism to achieve great things for themselves, their group, and even humanity. What differs the functional narcissist from the toxic narcissist is that the functional narcissist can turn their attention outward and channel it into their work and into building relationships with other people. They can love themselves in the absence of attention from others. If you continuously search for social approval from others, you will never be fulfilled and you will only sink further and further into deep narcissism. You will not be able to develop healthy relationships with people on a deep and meaningful level. Creating a self that we can love is a part of healthy development, and failure to unlock this dimension of your character will limit your potential. To become a functional narcissist, you must cultivate the opposite characteristics of a deep narcissist. 1. Develop your empathy. Put down all electronic devices and spend more time paying attention to people in real-world circumstances. 2. Humble yourself and listen to new information. 3. Seek out constructive criticism and laugh at jokes made at your expense. 4. Focus your attention outward. Make all conversations about other people and don't interrupt them when they are talking. 5. Celebrate the successes of others. Play up their achievements and avoid triggering insecurities in others by playing down your own achievements. 6. Avoid the victim mentality and instead adopt an ownership mentality. Refer to episode 73 for more details on how to do this. 7. Accept your narcissism. Denying your narcissism is one of the single biggest barriers to forming a healthy relationship with yourself and developing your own self-esteem. And 8. You must not allow the successes to go to your head. Instead, attribute your successes to luck or the help of others rather than your own superior self. Remember, everyone is on the narcissistic spectrum somewhere. If you allow the successes to go to your head, you will become grandiose. Losing touch with reality will cause you to make irrational decisions, setting you up for a catastrophic fall. Learn to recognise the signs of elevated grandiosity within yourself and counteract this pull by maintaining a realistic assessment of yourself and your limits. If you are indeed great and you don't do this, it will limit your potential and it will send you cascading down a bottomless pit. To conclude today's episode, I want to recall a story from Ovid's Metamorphosis, written in the 8th century AD, which illustrates just how destructive deep narcissism can become. Long ago in the ancient world, there was born to the blue-eyed nymph Liriope a beautiful boy whom she called Narcissus. An oracle foretold at his birth that he should be happy and live to a good old age if he never saw himself. As this prophecy seemed ridiculous, his mother soon forgot all about it. Narcissus grew to be a stately, handsome youth. His limbs were firm and straight, curls clustered about his white brow, and his eyes shone like two stars. He loved to wander among the meadow flowers and in the pathless woodland, but he disdained his playmates and would not listen to their entreaties to join in their games. His heart was cold, and in it was neither hate nor love. He lived indifferent to youth or maid, to friend or foe. Now in the forest nearby dwelt a nymph named Echo. She had been a handmaiden of the goddess Juno. But though the nymph was beautiful of face, she was not loved. She had a noisy tongue. She told lies and whispered slanders and encouraged the other nymphs in many misdoings. So when Juno perceived all of this, she ordered the troublesome nymph away from her court and banished her to the wildwood, bidding her to never speak again except in imitation of other people's words. So Echo dwelt in the woods and forever mocked the words of youths and maidens. One day, as Narcissus was wandering alone in the pathless forest, Echo, peeping from behind a tree, saw his beauty, and as she gazed, her heart was filled with love. Stealthily, she followed his footsteps, and often she tried to call him with endearing words, but she could not speak, for she no longer had a voice of her own. At last, Narcissus heard the sound of breaking branches, and he cried out, "Is there anyone here?" And Echo answered softly, "Here." Narcissus, amazed, looking about on all sides and seeing no one, cried, "Come!" And Echo answered, "Come." Narcissus cried again, "Who are you? Whom seekest you?" And Echo answered, "You." Then, rushing from among the trees, she tried to throw her arms about his neck, but Narcissus fled through the forest, crying, "Away, away, I will die before I love you." And Echo answered mournfully, "I love you." And thus rejected, she hid among the trees and buried her blushing face in the green leaves, and she pined and pined until her body wasted quite away and nothing but her voice was left. And some say that even to this day her voice lives in lonely caves and answers men's words from afar. Now when Narcissus fled from Echo, he came to a clear spring like silver. Its waters were unsullied, for neither goats feeding upon the mountains, nor any other cattle had drunk from it, nor had wild beasts or birds disturbed it, nor had a branch or leaf fallen into its calm waters. The trees bent above and shaded it from the hot sun, and the soft green grass grew on its margin. Here, Narcissus, fatigued and thirsty after his flight, laid himself down beside the spring to drink. He gazed into the mirror-like water and saw himself reflected in its tide. He knew not that it was his own image, but thought that he saw a youth living in the spring. He gazed on two eyes like stars, on graceful slender fingers, on clustering curls worthy of Apollo, on a mouth arched like Cupid's bow, on blushing cheeks and ivory neck. And as he gazed, his cold heart grew warm, and love for this beautiful reflection rose up and filled his soul. He rained kisses on the deceitful stream. He thrust his arms into the water and strove to grasp the image by the neck, but it fled away. Again, he kissed the stream, but the image mocked his love. And all day and all night, laying there without food or drink, he continued to gaze into the water. Then raising himself, he stretched out his arms to the trees about him and cried, "Did ever one love as much as I? Have you ever seen a lover in this way pine for the sake of unrequited affection?" Then, turning once more, Narcissus addressed his reflection in the limpid stream. "Why, dear youth, do you flee away from me? Neither a vast sea, nor a long way, nor a great mountain separates us. Only a little water keeps us apart. Why, dear lad, do you deceive me? And to where do you go when I try to grasp you? You encourage me with friendly looks. When I extend my arms, you extend yours. When I smile, you smile in return. And when I weep, you weep. But when I try to clasp you beneath the stream, you shun me and flee away. Grief is taking my strength, and my life will soon be over. In my early days am I cut off. Nor is death grievous to me, now that he is about to remove my sorrows." Thus, mourned Narcissus, lying beside the woodland spring, he disturbed the water with his tears and made the woods resound with his sighs. And as the yellow wax melted by the fire and the hoar frost consumed by the heat of the sun, so did Narcissus pine away, his body wasting by degrees. And often as he sighed, "Alas!" the grieving Echo from the woods answered, "Alas!" With his last breath, he looked into the water and sighed, "Ah, youth, beloved, farewell." And Echo sighed, "Farewell." And Narcissus, laying his weary head upon the grass, closed his eyes forever. The water nymphs wept for him, and the wood dryads lamented him, and Echo resounded their mourning. But when they sought his body, it had vanished away, and in its stead had grown up by the brink of the stream a little flower with silver leaves and a golden heart, and thus was born to the earth the woodland flower Narcissus. Thanks for watching today's episode. In episode 130, I'll be talking about manipulation. Subscribe and click the bell icon to be notified when it drops. Catch you then.